It's night and it's two-way. So it's two-way tonight. Two great tastes that taste great together. Thank you for joining. Grateful to you for being part of our conversation for the second straight night. I could choose about 72 different things as our lead story. So in the midst of our process here, we'll figure out what we're going to lead with. Probably the thing that's most interesting to me is a multi-pronged assault on Jay Powell from Trump world. Kind of interesting. So we'll talk about that. I'm delighted he's come back. We'll ask him why he's decided to come back. Aaron Parnas is here of the Parnas Perspective newsletter on Substack. He will be with us shortly. And then tonight, a cavalcade of your questions. So if you want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand. Whether you've been on here before, you could. It's the functional equivalent of winning the lottery when you get called on to be on two-way. So here's your chance to be part of the conversation. I'm very interested in, if you're a Trump voter, let's say you voted for him in 24 or 20 or 16, how you feel about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. So if you want to weigh in on that, we did it in the chat this morning, but if you want to weigh in on that, please raise your hand. And just really curious to try to sample public opinion. I know what elite MAGA thinks. Elite MAGA doesn't like it, but I'm curious what grassroots MAGA thinks, because I'm all about grassroots MAGA. In any event, we'll get to your questions. If you're here on the two-way platform, if you want to be in, raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube, my strong preference is that anything you put in the chat is reflective of the ethos we have here: peace, love, and understanding. What I don't see is smack in the chat. The other night, I put the YouTube feed up on another monitor, and man, it's humbling to be so widely disregarded, because the YouTube chat is just smack. This is like a running stream of smack. It's quite something, and I'll continue my efforts to extend the presumption of grace to all, but maybe stop extending it to those who so promiscuously put smack in the chat. Please don't do that. In any event, we'll get to your questions in a bit. We'll get to our guest in just a bit. But now, a word from our sponsor, Cozy Earth. The Cozy Earth stuff is fantastic. And I have to admit, I hadn't really focused on it. They advertise lots of places, not just here, but I hadn't really focused. I just figured they like to advertise. And now that I've started to use the bedding and the pants in particular, couldn't enjoy them more. They naturally wick away heat. They're made from viscose from bamboo. And I got to say, I want to go to the factory and see how they do it, because it's like a magical cloak. I feel like Harry Potter every time I put this stuff on. It feels different than other clothes, particularly when it's hot. It's fantastic. Same with the bedding. You get a 100-night sleep guarantee if you buy their bedding. Good to try it now. Maybe July, August. That'd be 60 of the 100 days. If you don't love it, you can return it hassle-free. But if you keep it, you get a 10-year warranty on all their bedding products. And that amounts to a decade of cool and quality sleep. So upgrade your summer sleep now. Head to CozyEarth.com. Please use the promo code two-way. That gets you 40% off best-selling sheets, pajamas, and more. 40% off. You hear me say 40% off, you think, what can possibly 40% off? Well, it is 40% off. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy with Cozy Earth. Ding. All right. Hold on. My computer's beeping, making a lot of noises. All right. As I said, lots of stories today. And I think rather than run through them myself, because we don't have a ton of video, we have some. Let's bring in our guest, who now someone will probably tell me isn't here. Is our guest here? He is. Aaron. Here's Aaron. Aaron, welcome in. I'm gonna make Aaron part of the conversation here. Aaron, welcome back to Two-Way. The question I teased is, what made you decide to come back?
Had a great time the first time. I was excited to come back. I'm super happy to be here.
Well, grateful to have you here. Did you get any feedback when you were on the first time?
I think I got some in the chat, but honestly,
otherwise, no.
I don't check my email enough.
Okay, all right, that's a good policy. Aaron, believe it or not, there are people who don't know what the Parnas Perspective is. I find that shocking, but I have to deal in reality. So tell people about your Substack. How often does it come out? What is it, a boot, as we say in Canada? And who should subscribe?
Yeah, it comes out 2, 3, 4 times a day. It's just the news, just the facts, no opinion. Just trying to remake journalism in real time, just shifting away from kind of the opinion that we see on TV all the time to just fact-based reporting once again. So it comes out multiple times a day. You should check it out, subscribe, and yeah, hope you like it.
Okay. And how would you describe your, as we say in the New York City mayoral race, your ideology?
And I'm personally center left,
Yeah.
but I try to keep my biases out of it as much as I can.
All right. You're personally center left. So what would that mean to you? What does center left mean to you here in America today?
Listen, I think it depends on the day. It depends on the politician and the policy. So I think that I just want to see kind of Americans come together. I think there's 80% of America agrees on a lot of issues. 20% is the loudest in the room. They're not the most popular. And I think it's time to get back to some normalcy.
Yeah. The loudest, angriest voices on the national town square, they just bully everybody else off. And part of why we have this platform and this program is to try to allow other people's voices to be heard. Seems reasonable. And I don't know how big the other voices, how big that group is, but it's got to be a majority.
Yeah.
Got to be a majority. All right. Well, Aaron, I couldn't be happier to have you here. What's your view of Jay Powell? He doing a good job over there at the Fed?
Listen, I think he's being very cautious. I think a little bit overly cautious, but when you have a president who's kind of where we don't really know where the tariffs policy is going right now, I understand the caution. So I think that's ultimately the hesitation. If the tariffs weren't really on the table, he would have lowered interest rates by now. But given the fact that we're throwing 50% tariffs on Brazil because of the Bolsonaro trial,
Right.
I don't know where our economy is going at this point.
Right. All right. Before I get to why I asked you about Jay Powell, a fusillade of attacks from Trump world today. A lot of hands up. Now that could be because Aaron is. People want to ask Aaron questions, or it could be because I said if you got a view of Jeffrey Epstein, put your hand up. But we'll see. We'll get to questions maybe a little sooner than usual. All right. First, here's the president of the United States on a little thing called Truth Social. Number one, saying too late. Name for not just Aaron can read it because it's young eyes, but I can read it. Here we go. All right. Too late. That's how it refers to Jay Powell. Demeans the great credit of the USA. We are now again the number one credit in the world. Not really to come back. The Fed rate should be reflective of this. We should be at the top of the list. Lower the rate. And then I think it's a second post, if I'm not mistaken. Is there another one? Yeah. Tech stocks, industrial stocks, and NASDAQs hit all-time record highs. Crypto through the roof. NVIDIA is up 47% since Trump tariffs. USA is taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. Country is now back. A great credit. Fed should rapidly lower rate to reflect the strength. USA should be at the top of the list. No inflation. So that's the president. And as all the viewers of this program know, and listeners, that he's not been high in Jay Powell. Here's Kevin Hasset, head of the National Economic Council, and a man thought to be in line to perhaps be the new Fed chair, speaking on Fox about Mr. Powell. Number two, please.
Bottom line is that President Trump's objective is to take all of government and make it better and make it work better for the American people. And government has gotten very big throughout Washington. And one of the places that hasn't really responded yet to the downsizing that you're talking about is the Federal Reserve. And I'm sure that whatever new leadership the president chooses for the new Federal Reserve, that they're going to pay close attention to the runaway spending, to the actual losses after years and years of profits and so on. And with respect to interest rates, I think that everybody always understands that the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, but the president is allowed to speak his mind. But also you should look at the data. And so one of the things, for example, you could do is look at what the European Central Bank has done with interest rates. And over time, those are highly, highly correlated with what happens here in the U.S. And so they've cut rates a lot. And if you were to take the rate cuts that they had and do the normal correlation for current Fed policy, then the current Federal Reserve rate would be about 3. And so the president is wondering, why is it that the normal correlations seem to be breaking down right now precisely while he's president? And I think that there's been an unfortunate pattern of perhaps not independent Federal Reserve taking actions where they, cut right before the previous election, hiked right after he was elected last time, and right now seem to be falling behind the curve compared to what other central banks are doing. I think that raises the specter that they're not being nonpartisan, they're not being independent. And that's something that I'm sure the president is going to address in his next set of nominations.
Hey, Noah, is that from Kudlow tonight or last night? Any idea?
I got to check.
All right, that's all right. Anyway, so, basically accusing a guy who Trump made chair of the Fed of being a secret agent for the Democrats. But it doesn't stop there. Let me ask you this, Aaron, are we in an age where lavish renovations by government officials of their offices, is that a good idea, would you say, in this day and age?
I don't think it's a good idea, whether Republicans or Democrats.
Not a good idea. So Russ Vought, who's the head of the OMB, wrote what is described as a threatening letter to Jay Powell about lavish renovations. Let's see that. That's number 3. I'm not familiar with these. That's a long letter. We're not, as Donald Trump would say, oh, it's a long letter. We're not going to read that. But he wrote him a letter. And here, number 4, this James Blair. He's basically was one of the top political advisors to the president. You blow that one up so I can read it. He's got grave concerns, according to his tweet. He's got grave concerns about the so-called lavish renovations. Anyway, my point is they're going after him. And I would say if it's not coordinated, it might as well be. So, Aaron, what do you think of this issue of the White House being unhappy with Jay Powell? Are they trying to get him to quit or just make his life miserable because they're frustrated?
I think it's the former. I mean, if their issue is lavish renovations, I mean, both Republicans and Democrats do it. Hegseth ordered a makeup studio to be built in the Pentagon earlier this year. So it's not like Jay Powell is the only one doing these lavish renovations. But I will say this, the issue I have with all of this is that they are right. Kevin Hasset is right that the Federal Reserve chairman is supposed to be neutral, supposed to be independent. When you constantly attack him, and if they push him out or if Trump does end up firing him, how does that look independent with any new nominee coming in? It kind of muddies the water a little bit. So I don't know. I'm kind of worried about the independence of the Fed as a whole moving forward. And by the way, Trump did nominate Powell back in 2017. I mean, this was Trump's guy at some point until he wasn't.
Until he wasn't. Yeah. All right. That's that. Again, yeah, that's kind of a low wattage lead, because there are no huge stories today. So let me do some other medium-sized stories, or you might think they're small stories. A judge issued a new block on the birthright citizenship ban, and Bibi Netanyahu is at this hour being interviewed by Greta Van Susteren on Newsmax. And he's doing at least one other interview that I know of here with American media. Mr. Homan was on Fox and said Joe Biden lied about migrants. Tom Tillis is expressing regret about voting to confirm Pete Hegseth. And here's, just because we like bizarro videos, here's a Pete Hegseth video. A drone hands the Secretary of Defense a memo, number 7. You already seen this, Aaron?
I did.
Okay. Fun. All right, let's play that. Aaron thinks it's funny. Let's see.
We know why we were put here. We were brought here to rebuild the military, match capabilities to the threats of today. So while our adversaries have produced millions of cheap drones, before us, we were mired in bureaucratic red tape. Not anymore. In June, President Trump issued an executive order unleashing American drone dominance to bolster our drone industry and arm our warfighters, because that's what we're all about. So today, I'm rescinding restrictive policies that stifle production, and this will unleash American manufacturing and the ingenuity of our warfighters by doing 3 key things. First, we're going to bolster the U.S. drone manufacturing base by producing thousands of American-made products, prioritizing Buy American. We'll arm combat units with a variety of low-cost, American-crafted drones, leveraging our world-leading engineers and AI experts. And third, we're going to train as we expect to fight. Senior officers, well, I'll grab this because it's the memo. Senior officers must overcome bureaucratic risk aversion in budgeting, weaponing,
Aaron,
weaponeering.
First of all, I don't like to be critical of the audio person, but the audio was not that, the drone was drowning him out, but also it was a little distracting. I don't know. Do you think if you were directing that video, would you have made any changes?
Yeah, I would have put a mic on Hegseth. As he's a Fox News guy. He's been on TV for so long, you would think he would know that. But I don't know. Listen, if everything he's saying in there is fully accurate, great. Make America the strongest warfighting country in the world. Fine, good, no problem. Do we this is spending taxpayer dollars on this video.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. If we went to Erie County, Pennsylvania tomorrow night, and we went to some church social or a diner or something.
Yeah.
And we asked people, which are you paying more attention to right now? The New York City mayor's race or the White House's no further disclosure policy on Jeffrey Epstein? Which topic do you think would be more on the minds of people in Erie County?
Today, I think Epstein more so than New York. Yeah.
All right. Tell me your view of the Epstein thing. What's going on? Why is the White House saying, and the Justice Department saying no mas?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not privy to that. I do think that there are documents that aren't being released publicly, whether or not it's a client list or just other documents that are associated with him. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of documents in the Maxwell case that were never released publicly that were part of her trial. So there are still documents that are private. I just think that when you spend years attacking the Democratic administration for not releasing the Epstein or covering up this whole Epstein stuff, and then you come in and you kind of toe the same line that the Biden administration did for 4 years, just loses credibility among the right, the left, and the center. I mean, I feel like no one believes what's happening with Epstein anymore.
Right. So, we'll take some questions on Epstein in a minute. New York City mayor's race. New York Times is reporting that there's a new group funded by, as my friend Bernie Sanders would say, billionaires and millionaires. 20 million. I don't know if that's an estimate or floor or ceiling, to try to beat Mr. Mondami, the Democratic nominee for mayor. And it's not really clear to me how they're going to spend that money. The New York Times, this is Wall Street Journal. I said New York Times, Wall Street Journal. So here's a paragraph that really stood out to me in the story. It's a straight news story, but I find this paragraph to be kind of hilarious. I'm going to read it verbatim. Again, this is from the Wall Street Journal story. Political strategists and financiers say the opening weeks of the general election have been chaotic. True. Now, here's the part I like. They complain the anti-Mondami bulwark lacks a positive message and a candidate and enough votes to win. And like short little Hemingway sentences. And a candidate, period. And enough votes to win, period. Again, very good reporting, very good analysis. They don't have a positive message. They don't have a candidate. And it doesn't appear they have enough votes to win. Now, we still are watching to see who's going to endorse this guy. The Chuck Schumer of New York hasn't endorsed him. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries hasn't endorsed him. The chairman of the Democratic Party, do you know who that is? You name
Ken
that?
Martin. Ken Martin.
There you go, Ken Martin. Ken Martin was on the NewsHour. Do you know what the NewsHour was called when I was your age, Aaron?
No, what was it?
Do you know what the NewsHour is?
Nope.
Okay. So the NewsHour is the nightly PBS evening newscast. It's an hour long. I don't know who hosts it now, but back in the day when I was your age, it was hosted by a guy's named McNeil and Lair. It was called the McNeil-Lair NewsHour. If you applied for a job there or an internship, they had a simple rule. If you spelled either McNeil or Lair incorrect, they wouldn't even look at your application. And back there was no Twitter then, believe it or not, no internet. So figuring out how to spell McNeil, and they were both spelled kind of weird, like non-standard. I forget, McNeil was like M-A-C, I can't remember, but they were not easy spellings, but that was their policy. In any event, I digress. Ken Martin was on the NewsHour, and he's asked about this thing that Mr. Mondami says, I'm blanking on the thing. He says, globalize the intifada, right?
Intifada.
Thank you, intifada. I say it wrong every time. I'm like Norm Crosby. Well, you said it. Anyway, Ken Martin was asked, what do you think of that, Mr. Chairman? And this answer, Haley and I will agree. I don't even need to ask Haley. This answer is like a train wreck disaster. Here is the chairman of the Democratic Party asked what he thinks about something that many Americans consider to be highly offensive. This is Ken Martin on the NewsHour, number 11.
To learn more.
What about concerns from some of your Jewish colleagues in particular about him not outright condemning the phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview? Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
you know, there's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years, and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition. We have conservative Democrats, we have centrist Democrats, we have labor progressives like me, and we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party. Yes, it leads to dissent and debate, and there's differences of opinions on a whole host of issues. But we should celebrate that as a party and recognize at the end of the day, we're better.
And I don't work in politics, but I think that's what's called a pivot.
Well, let me tell you something. Ken is very media trained.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you think of that answer for the good of the party? Do you think that's a good way to address this?
Listen, at the end of the day, his job is to elect Democrats, right? So him going against a Democratic nominee would be a little weird. So I'm not surprised at this answer. That's his job. Ultimately, I think that there are reasons why Jeffries and Schumer haven't endorsed Mamdani, but I do think they ultimately will endorse him. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I try to stay out of New York City politics because it's a mess no matter what election cycle we're in, but especially this one.
Yeah, I try to stay out of it too, but sometimes I have no choice.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious of why you think they're going to endorse him. They haven't yet. What will cause them to endorse him?
I mean, just practicality, right? You look at Adams's approval ratings; they're, I think, like 24% approval, 60% disapproval. Cuomo couldn't win a primary because of all of the allegations against him, but also because he didn't really even run a campaign. And then you have a Republican candidate. So those three are really splitting the votes. What's the other option? You don't endorse and don't work with the mayor of New York City, which is arguably one of the most powerful positions in the country.
Yeah. I'm super curious to see what they do. I think you're probably right, because I think what those two guys are scaredy cats, fraidy cats of the progressive movement. But the fact that they haven't yet is interesting to me. All right, Aaron, I'm just going to run through some remaining stuff, and you just like annotate as you wish, short, long, whatever you want to say, and then we'll get to your questions. Plenty of hands up. We'll get to you in a moment. All right, here we go. This is Bobby Kennedy on Laura Trump. Laura Trump has an interview with her father-in-law. I think it airs this week, but they put out a clip. Here is RFKJ on the Laura Trump's Fox show, number 8, please.
Literally spent years praying every morning that I would be in a position where I could address this chronic disease epidemic in kids, and that God would put me in a place where I could do that. And now I'm in that place, and I'm very grateful to the president. He's allowed me to populate this agency with extraordinary scientists. You can't have real science if you don't have integrity, if you don't have a free flow of information, and that we can share knowledge with each other and debate that knowledge. And they're all against this regime of control, of centralized control, and of information, of censorship, of using this agency to manipulate the truth in order to achieve an outcome of compliance among Americans. There's all kind of biases, and we need to have a system in place that will account for those biases and that will produce the best gold standard science for Americans and evidence-based medicine.
Aaron, how is RFKJ doing from your point of view as compared to your expectations? Better, worse, or about what you thought?
About what I thought. I don't want to say good or bad. There are still a lot of unknowns. He hasn't really done much. He's fired a lot of folks, replaced a lot of folks. He hasn't actually done a ton of things. So I will say the one good thing he's done that I will say is objectively good is removing the dyes from like the red and a number of the other dyes. He worked off of what Biden already did. So that's a good thing, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Hey, number 9, in the old days, I'd ask the control room, but we don't really have that. A virtual control. Number 9, is that a video? Number 9?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So Aaron, let's say we're back to New York City here. You come to New York a lot?
No, I avoid New York like the plague.
All right. Let's say you were in New York and you were in Houlihan's or some classic New York place, and you looked over and you're sitting at the bar having a burger and the side salad, because who needs the fries?
Sure.
And you look over the bar stool next to you, and two options. And I want you to say, just like your gut reaction, who would you be more excited to see on the bar stool next to you? Choice A, Mayor Adams, or choice B, Usher. Who'd be more exciting on the bar stool next to you?
Usher, without a doubt.
Usher, without a doubt. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the duet of Eric Adams and Usher, number 9.
Hello?
Hey man, can you talk for a second?
Yo, I'm in the booth. I'm gonna call you right back.
I have really big news.
I'm at the studio, man.
Rise Up concert are coming back for the 4th year.
Quit playing with me, man.
New York is going to be outside all summer long. The best part, all of the concerts are free.
No, for real. Don't play like that.
This is for real. You got a lineup, Big Daddy Kane.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
How you know?
I know because I'm hosting them. Rise Up has been such a success over the past few years. We had to bring them back for another summer.
Put that on everything.
That's on everything.
Damn.
Rise Up concerts are going to be the hit of the summer, something that no New Yorker should even think about missing.
I'm gonna call you back.
Wait, make sure you spread the word.
I'm gonna call you back.
And remember this part, it's free. Tell your family, your loved ones, your girlfriend, and come have a good time this summer.
All right, when do those things start? Because they're just announcing stuff for the summer. It's July 10th. Like summer's, I'm like winding down for summer. Anyway, still would choose Usher even after that video.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if Usher comes out and says something about that video.
All right. Here's Karen Bass having a press conference in California about the topic she talks about a lot, which is immigration and the activities around it. Number 12, LA Mayor Karen Bass. Very municipal episode.
Bass, this is kind of more of a broader national question. Reports indicate that ICE agents and police officers in Texas have been targeted in ambushes, including in Alvarado, where assailants in tactical gear allegedly lured officers with fireworks before opening fire. Given your strong opposition to federal immigration enforcement actions in Los Angeles, how would you address similar escalations of violence against law enforcement in Texas? And what steps would you propose to prevent such unrest from spreading to Los Angeles, while balancing community safety in your sanctuary city policies?
Well, let me just say that the quote-unquote riots that were reported never happened.
All right, so she said there were no riots in LA. I guess that's why we showed that. All right, two more. Mohammed Khalil, the former Columbia University graduate student who was detained and has now been released, has sued Donald Trump. I don't know if he's suing Donald Trump or he's suing the Trump administration. $20 million he wants for his detention, Trump administration. And Ken Paxton, who's primarying John Cornyn in the Texas Senate race, is going through a nasty public matter. Number 15, his wife has filed for divorce. That's her tweet. Sam, can you blow that one up big? So Aaron and I want to read this one. His wife is suing him for after 37 years of marriage, filing for divorce on biblical grounds. Biblical grounds. I believe marriage is a sacred covenant, and I've earnestly pursued reconciliation. But in light of recent discoveries, I do not believe it honors God or is loving to myself, my children, or Ken to remain in the marriage. Who do you favor in that primary? Not who you're supporting, Aaron, but who do you think is going to win the primary?
I think Paxton's still going to run away with it.
Really?
I do. I mean, I think this will just like kind of mobilize the base even more. The base isn't suburban women who are going to vote against him in the general, but I think ultimately he'll win. I just feel bad for the kids. I'm the son of divorcees. This is kind of in public is kind of awful.
I'm with you. All right, Aaron, here we go. As we used to say in the olden days, we're going to the phones.
Let's do it.
Are you ready to take on the vast viewing audience here?
I'm ready.
All right, let's start with Barbara Smith. I won't say it's the most generic name possible, but Barbara.
It's my real name.
I hear you. You're not named John Smith, Barbara. Welcome
but
in.
I'm married to Michael John Smith. So
Michael John Smith. He's a pilgrim. Welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks where you are and your question for Aaron, please.
I'm calling from Illinois, the central part of Illinois.
Yeah.
And first of all, I'm three-time Trump voter, and I'm concerned about the Epstein.
Tell us what concerns you, please.
I think a lot of people want to see sex trafficking dealt with, and that was such a blowout case of it, it seemed to people. Alan Dershowitz talked today about seeing the list and believes, they're not revealing because of who's on it. I want to also say that the Hasset video you had.
Yeah.
I mean, I am MAGA, but I just cringe when I hear him talk. There's something about him. It just doesn't sound, it sounds too theatrical. And I guess that one looked theatrical.
Right. All right. Well, Barbara, that's a good potpourri, but let's go back to Epstein. Do you have any suspicions about why they thought the policy that they have?
You can only, I don't know this whole, he was a spy thing. I don't follow it enough to know that, but it has to be somebody, the names that are on it. And just, of course, as MAGA, I don't want it to be any of them.
Right.
But, we've got to do what's right.
Yeah.
I do want to also say, with the defunding of Planned Parenthood in the big, beautiful bill, I'm really excited about that. I've worked a long time in pro-life for 40 years and just so glad to see that was addressed.
All right, Barbara, you've raised
and wondering. I am wondering though, why isn't it? I haven't heard much about that. I haven't heard all kinds of big demonstrations or anything.
Yeah. Well, I think people are still sort of reading into it and maybe not aware of the impact. And I don't know how quickly that's being phased in, I confess. But you've raised a bunch of stuff. Aaron, a comment, or if you got a question for Barbara, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious. If there were Epstein documents and they were released and say Trump was on there, would that make you reconsider your support for him?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, if nothing else, this whole, that it was dragged out like this. I mean,
Barbara,
knew it was coming.
Barbara, do you have any doubt that this is the president's policy? In other words, do you blame Pam Bondi, or do you say the buck stops with the president?
I know I don't sound MAGA in this conversation.
Oh, you sound like you could be the mayor of New York City.
But don't say that. But she's another one that when you hear her talk, like in that talking, I heard you and Megyn Kelly talking about it the other night. I mean, when you hear her talk, it just something doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
When
Barbara,
she talks about
who do you like in the Trump administration?
Who do I like in it?
You don't like Hasset, you don't like Pam Bondi. I'm just curious, like who's in there? Do you like Bobby Kennedy?
I like Hasset. I do like Hasset. I just can't stand to listen to him talk.
Got
I
it.
felt like that with George Bush. I couldn't listen to a single speech,
Got it. All right. Well, Barbara, thank you for coming on. Grateful to you. All right, thank you. Aaron, any summary thoughts about Barbara and her views?
I think her views may be a reason why we're not seeing more of these documents come out.
Because
if they do come out and they're invoking highly influential people connected to this president, then maybe it'll reconsider some folks' support for him. I don't know, though.
Well, but she said she'd reconsider her support because they're not coming out, right?
No. So I said, I asked her if his name was on it, whether she would.
Okay. All right. I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I misunderstood. I thought you meant if he were responsible. Okay. Good. Excellent. Tom, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind for the great Aaron Parnas on Substack.
Good to meet you both. I'm in Chicago. Go Cubs, go.
Yeah.
They won today, thankfully. On the Epstein list, I guess here's the dilemma. I think if they're on a list, the implication is that they did something sexually with people. But there's cameras and such, apparently. There's all over this place. And I guess I would be more inclined to consider identifying people who are on a videotape doing these acts rather than people that are on some lengthy list that might have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And by, if a list exists, Dershowitz says a list exists, you publish every name on the list. Well, every one of them is a pariah. What if only 10 people out of the 100 did anything?
Yeah.
Now you've basically shamed 90 people for doing nothing.
Totally agree. And we talked about that this morning because no matter how it's caveated, no matter how much whatever, if they put out names and it's associated with Epstein, it's going to ruin people's lives and marriages and careers and everything else. So, but I would say they should say that. If they haven't, I haven't heard them say that. I haven't heard them say, were concerned about putting out lists because of that reason. They just said, there's nothing to see here. So
I thought Trump said something about that there's like innocent people, or there could be people that have
He
nothing
said
to
something
do.
like that a while back.
yeah, it was a little vague, I thought,
Yeah.
and it wasn't in concert with the current moment. Aaron, question for Tom.
I'm just curious. I mean, do you think that it's at all a little odd that Ghislaine Maxwell is behind bars for sex trafficking young girls for the benefit of men across the country, and the names of those men that were ideally engaged in that sexual activity, those names aren't coming out?
No, I'm 100% with you. I think those names should come out.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows if there's some great. It's like pulling out your Outlook contacts list. If you downloaded that and it was Jeffrey Epstein's Outlook contacts list, and that gets published, and you got the bulk of those people probably had nothing to do with this. I mean, I would be more interested in seeing the names of the people that Ghislaine Maxwell was trafficking girls to, and all of that stuff. That micro list, I think, would be far more interesting to see than just some big giant generic contact list where, like I said, you're basically putting the what was I'm trying to think what the red letter was. The
Scarlet A.
That's it. And on a bunch of people that have their lives ruined, that did nothing more than have a conversation with him.
Yeah. So Tom,
I was watching the group chat today, and Dan Turrentine said that he'd actually talked to Epstein once when he was fundraising in Florida. And I mean, is Dan Turrentine on the contact list? No, I hope not. But that's sort of blowing it out of proportion. But I guess my point is that I would much rather, I mean, I don't want to see videos, but I think we should certainly be able to identify people who are on these videos if they exist.
Yeah. Tom, have you ever met President Trump?
No.
All right. Let's say he watches the program, I'm sure. Let's say he saw you, he called you up, said, Tom, what do you think I should do about this Epstein thing? What would your advice to him be?
I would say that I would be more inclined, like sort of implying earlier, I would be more inclined in having the videotapes, as I think Pam Bondi said, there are like hundreds of them.
Yeah.
That identify the people in those tapes committing those acts, and that those acts were with minors.
Right.
And those would be the people who would need to be named and shamed.
Great. Tom, thank you. Grateful to you for coming on. Appreciate it. All right. Colin, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind for Aaron.
Hi, I'm Colin from Tallahassee, Florida. And this past election was the first that I was old enough to vote in, but I went to Trump's first inauguration and then again this year. And so I've been a longtime supporter of him. And I've been a longtime fan of yours, watching you on the circus. You've always been my favorite journalist.
Very nice of you. Thank you, sir.
On the Epstein stuff, this is the first time so far in the administration that I've been just disappointed. Like I cringed watching him respond. I think he was in the cabinet meeting.
Yes,
when
sir.
he interjected with Pam Bondi. I didn't understand. Like he's got to understand from his base perspective. And I mean, maybe JD Vance needs to go talk to him because he's been talking about this a lot. But it just seems like he completely missed the mark on where people are at and why people are upset about it. And I just think if he were, to call and ask, what should I do? Just let it all out.
Yeah. Colin, let me ask you this. I consistently find anecdotally, and you're another data point here, that young people seem particularly passionate about this. Do you have a thought about why young people find it so important that there be transparency on this matter?
I think it's just on this and everything else from, the Iraq war to the financial crisis to COVID. It just feels like we're constantly being lied to and like being told, don't believe your lying eyes. We know better. Just the constant lying. It seems like this is just another example of that.
All right. That's going on social media in about 2 seconds. So very well said. Is this something you talk about with your friends?
Oh yeah, often since high school. I mean, it's also the running joke, like Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, but it's also a very like consistent topic of conversation.
And do you find it to be as equal amongst males and females? How much concern there is about these issues?
So I'd say more so men, but actually I was at work today and a coworker of mine who is my age as well, she brought it up to me. She's like, "What do you think of this?" Like, and she had been looking into it. So I think it's kind of just across the spectrum.
Yeah. Last one for me, and then Aaron may well have some questions. The lack of disclosure troubles you, and you connected it to the financial crisis, COVID, et cetera. Do you have sort of a unified theory here? Is this elites taking care of themselves? Like what connects all those things for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think elites as a broad term covers it, but I mean, it connects to like with terminal. It's just the same people staying in power longer and longer and just only there to protect themselves. And it just seems like you see a pattern. Just I guess elites covers it, but yeah, like they're not looking out for us. They're just trying to, look out for their next election or their friends that are keeping them there.
Yeah, you're speaking for tens of millions and doing it so articulately. I'm really grateful to you. Aaron, questions for?
Yeah, I will say I'm also a young white guy. Curious, what if you had like a dream for Trump to do in the next 6 months, next year and a half? What would it be? Not Epstein related, just generally. Like what's the issue that if he could solve tomorrow, like that's why you voted for him?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think he's doing a lot of work on immigration, but I would like to see like some permanent changes that can't be undone by an executive order, because I think that was, or at least should be, the major lesson from the first term is how quickly things can be turned around. And you're not always guaranteed to come back in power to clean it up the next time. So I'd like to see, like the wall get finished and some reform around immigration. I know they just put a lot of funding in there, but that doesn't really solve the problem. It's just a Band-Aid.
Are there any Democrats on the national stage who you find appealing?
John Fetterman. I like anybody. I was a fan of Tulsi when she was running in the Democratic primary because she didn't seem afraid to like speak her mind and to just say the truth, common sense. So John Fetterman's one of them.
Yeah.
Trying to think who else. I like Josh Shapiro. He's another one who seems like he can build a consensus. There's something about Pennsylvania, but
yeah. And just go back to the first thing you talked about. Is this? Some people are saying to me, well, yeah, people are talking about this now, that Jeffrey Epstein lack of disclosure, but people will move on. Will you move on from this as other things come up, or is this potentially at least going to cause a rupture between you and the MAGA movement, or the president, or the administration?
I don't know that it would cause a rupture in like my politics, because it's not like I trust the other side or really anybody else to handle it any better. But that was actually something I did want to ask is, what do you think this will affect 2028? Because I can see it being a big issue in the Republican primary. And I don't know about the general, but I do definitely think it's going to stick around. I mean, it has for the past 4 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm very humble and that's not the word I'm looking for. I have a lot of humility about my understanding of this, because I wanted to do a focus group today of people your age. You're under 30, right?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, I wanted to do a focus group today of people your age. Couldn't quite pull it together, but there's a resonance to this that I am respectful of. But I don't know how big it is or how much it will sustain. And I did my monologue today on Next Up about Donald Trump's decision making, and one of the things I reported out is most politicians that make a decision, they're kind of done with that topic. Donald Trump will change his mind a million times just on tariffs alone, right? He's had 42 positions in 40 days. He could change his mind on this, and so I don't think when you say impact 28, like I think by 28, even though he won't be on the ballot, I think he'll have refined his position if the electorate demands it. I just don't know whether the demand will sustain, but I have huge respect for the point of view you represented and the large number of people who share your point of view. I just don't know that it's going to sustain as a political issue, whether the president changes his position or not. Maybe it will. I just don't know. I don't feel comfortable saying I'm confident about where this is headed as a sustained political issue. Aaron, any thoughts on my ramblings?
I agree with you. I mean, we're a year and a half away from the start of the 2028 election, the primaries, January 2027. We're 3 years away from November 2028. The news cycle moves so fast. We're in a 24/7 news cycle. This will be a non-issue by the end of the year.
Maybe I'll say one more thing about it. Maybe I can muster up a little bit more articulate the way you were, because Colin, you really were so articulate about it. The passion with which you spoke about it, and the through line you see between this and some of the other big issues like COVID and financial crisis, it's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing out of your voice, but it's a powerful thing as I've talked to others about it, and as I see, and to have Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly and other people with big national platforms speak as you do about it. There's something going on here. There's something big going on here. And I don't know where it's headed or how big it is even now, but it's big and it's important. The honoring the victims and making sure that they are treated as well as possible is big, no matter what. But when you think about what does this mean about our culture, our society, our politics, our government, the future of MAGA, there's a lot here that I think needs to play out. But I'm very respectful of how emotional people are in a positive way about it, in the sense of they feel super strongly, and grateful for you joining. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, it's a good time to bring in America's doctor, who joined late, and I suspect he was watching on YouTube, and he jumped in because he wants to tell us exactly what he knows about Jeffrey Epstein. Dr. John.
That's right. Actually what I was doing, I'm building a treehouse for the kids. And so I was are
you using plans, or did you buy a kit?
No, this is all off the dome right here, Mark.
Pure for scratch. Did you do sketches?
I did a little mini sketch just because it's 3 trees and it's a weird triangle, and I kind of just made it all up myself.
Is Canadian lumber?
It's Home Depot, the worst lumber you can buy.
Yeah.
And a lot of scrap wood.
And you'll be treating the kids if that thing collapses in a heap.
I've jumped on it myself, and they're 3 and 6, so we're good for a few years. Yep.
Let us take a look at it?
Yeah, I mean, hold on, let me flip this around.
Yeah, please do. I want to take a look at it. Doctor made treehouse.
Well, we'll just do it this way real quick. But I was putting some tongue oil on it, which, if you're not familiar, tongue oil is a safer alternative, being MAGA adjacent, than some of the other stains. So that's what I've got on my garden. Here's my yard. If you want to see it.
That stuff is so healthy, you could guzzle it. I still need a better shot of the treehouse. I don't have a sense. Are there steps?
Yeah, well, the steps are coming. I'm using the ladder. There's a ladder down here. The steps are coming next. There's going to be a little wall up there.
Is it suitable for sleeping?
We're going to put the hammock underneath it, and then you will be able to sleep up there. Yeah.
And remind me how old your kids are.
3 and 6.
3 and 6. And are they super excited about this?
They could not be more excited about it. They've got their swing set over there, so this is going to have a one of those tin can situations to the top of the place.
Aaron, if you ever want a giant lawn on a doctor's salary, move to Nashville.
I mean, I moved here from Boston. That's why I'm here.
This guy's living the American dream. He's got a giant yard for 2 kids. You could have a campsite back there.
2 kids, two dogs. Got plenty of flowers.
All right, tell us what you think about Jeffrey. The Epstein matter, please.
I was like I said, I'm painting with the tongue oil. The last caller there made me jump back on, because whatever you're feeling and sensing among young people, it is real, and I think we have focused a lot, rightfully so, on how this whole Epstein thing, and not just Epstein, but going after Thomas Massie while endorsing Lindsey Graham, and going back to Ukraine and all these things coming out of COVID, just like he said. I won't repeat it, but for young people, MAGA is one thing. The people who actually put Trump in the White House this time was a coalition of Massie voters and Gabbard voters and RFK voters, and people who were so fed up with the Democrats, largely due to COVID, had this sort of awakening that was spiritual and emotional and deep, like you're feeling, and sort of viewed this as, all right, we're going to give this one last shot here at politics being something other than what it's been for our whole lives. And somebody's going to come in and actually just tell the truth, which is the simplest bar in theory, which is just say what you actually think and tell us the truth. And we thought, as you heard on Andrew Schultz's podcast today, him responding to this of being like, well, I guess we're the idiots. All these right-wing podcast bros that were all Bernie supporters that then voted for Trump, Schultz and Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan, Dave Smith, like all coming out with the same message, just like, you know what, now what? Like, we were lied to, and like, it's never going to change. And that angst and frustration is deeper than a 2-year, insider beltway election cycle. Who's voting for who? This is like a deep spiritual meaning crisis. And that's what I think you're feeling when people are saying stuff like this. Epstein, yes, the details of sexual contact with minors is horrific. I think no one would deny that. But this is about the faith in government itself.
Yeah.
And the story is as Alex Acosta said, he belongs to intelligence. Everyone sort of assumes that. And for them to just, Trump's response in that cabinet meeting was mind-blowing to me. For him to be that unaware, Barron needs to get back in there and tell him that this is not going away. And it's not just that the victims deserve it not to go away, but people's fundamental faith in government as an entity that can serve the public is at stake here because of what we have been through. I'm 37, he's 21, for my whole life, and certainly for his whole life, and for everyone else in our generation. The vastly largest group right now is independence. And to say that a third party is impossible when you could literally just sit Jon Stewart and Thomas Massie and RFK down and be like, hey, what are the things you agree on, and run that platform, and that would win. Like, this isn't that complicated. It's just no one can do it because all the politicians are either narcissists or clowns. So there's my rant.
Well, some are both.
And
John,
some are both.
John, thank you for that. Well said. You speak for tens of millions. What would you tell the president to do about the Epstein thing if he asked you?
I would tell him, look at the people who got you put into the White House, and at least honor them with some degree of honesty. I understand if there are true, deep national security implications that you can't, the personal friends thing is one thing, but that whole point, like talking about the potential like rape of minors. So like, I don't care if your friends get upset at you. So like, who cares? This is about, can we trust in our government, as he ran on with JFK and MLK and all these things that he was going to be fully transparent about. This is the exact opposite. Come out and say, if you can't tell us what's going on, then just say that. And like, but this is just not it. And it's the opposite of what he should be doing. And it's the single worst thing he could be doing because it perpetuates the very thing that put him into the White House in the first place.
Aaron, questions for Dr. John. I say questions because if you've got a rash or a sore someplace, you may want to ask him about that because he's brilliant diagnostician. No questions.
No questions. Just fascinated about the treehouse.
Yeah. Fascinated by the treehouse.
Any more treehouse questions? Also
I am too.
are welcome,
I will say, since Aaron said he was only fascinated by the treehouse, I consume a lot of media. And one of the things I love about this platform as a journalist, and I'm proud of as someone who's part of the company, is the last two people, Colin and John, they spoke brilliantly. And I've not heard that point of view from regular people. We're everyday people, as opposed to, pundits and whatever, and both of them spoke so eloquently and so powerfully. And I feel more confident than I did before this episode, that there is something here. There is something important and fundamental here that maybe the president knows about and maybe he doesn't. But if he doesn't, it could really be a problem for him. That's what I would say.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, John, thank you, man. Can you Instagram or tweet some of the photos? Because I still don't really have a good sense of it. And I don't really want to see anything till the steps are in.
Can I just say in 10 seconds, I am like not a social media person. I don't have an Instagram. When I first came on this platform months and months and months ago, I didn't have a single tweet out, X post out, and I had 0 followers. And I just used it as a way to consume news. I think so like I'm trying to like grow it a little bit now. I'm up to like 500. So.
Okay. What are the steps going to be made of?
I'm thinking about, there's 2 options. And if anyone has advice, I'm thinking about using some excess wood and just making the steps go up the tree itself versus actually building a ladder out of more. I've got a lot of scrap wood from the garden beds that I built, which we'll go through the garden next time.
Is it humid out there?
It has been horrible, and today is one of the not so humid days. We are escaping up to northern Wisconsin in 2 days, so we're going to escape this humidity.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sharing all that, including the treehouse. And I know you've been told this before, but you're a great dad.
That's what I'm trying to be, number one, before all else.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Aaron, let's talk a little bit more about your work. What are your career aspirations at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing right now is I want to just get as many people as possible educated on the news. And so whether that's building out my own show, continuing what I'm doing now, we'll see. I mean, I'm kind of just open. I've lived a very long life. I'm 26 years old. I practiced law for 5 years. Like I've been through multiple careers. So just kind of taking it day by day right now.
Yeah. And where are places you'd like to live?
I love Washington, D.C., so I see myself here for a long time. And then eventually probably to Southern California with my wife's family.
Yeah. Are you a member of any clubs or anything?
Not clubs. I mean, I play tennis,
Yeah.
hang out with friends, go to my local synagogue every weekend. So
Yeah. So you're not a Rotarian or Kiwanis or anything like that.
don't even know what those are.
Yeah. Aaron, there's such a yawning gap between us on so many cultural literacy things.
Okay. It's okay.
All right. We got to get Haley in because Haley's going to have a point of view about lots of stuff. Haley, close us out. Benediction, question. See if you can spell Aaron backwards, whatever you want to do.
I want to move off of Epstein, if that's okay.
Sure.
Wanted to talk about the mayor race a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a bone to pick with you, Mark. Peaceful and loving, of course.
Yeah.
I listened to your monologue on Next Up about Mamdani. And while I agree with probably 85% of what you said, I think there's a big issue here that's missing. I know that there was recently an article that I read that the biggest New York teachers union has just cut ties with the ADL.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the progression that we're seeing in New York City with Mamdani as the probable winner of mayor's race, I think that there's a lot here that nobody wants to talk about, and I think my community, the Jewish community, is being portrayed as we're all panicking for no reason. And so when I see an article like that where the biggest teachers union is cutting ties with the ADL, which is on the national level probably has more problems, but on the local level is one of the best organizations for Jewish values in Israel, I think we're being gaslit a little bit. I don't say you're doing it. I don't mean that at all. But I just think the media is gaslighting our community a bit. And I think there's a real fear here that can get talked about. In the whole globalized intifada, I know like that's like supposed to like encompass the entire thing, but it's so much more.
Yeah. I respect that point of view greatly. And what I've tried to make clear is let the guy explain himself. Let's hear from him. He's probably going to be the mayor of New York City. I'd rather not be at war, and I don't just mean me, I mean like all of us, at war with the mayor of New York City. And he doesn't seem anti-Semitic to me. And being suspicious of Israel or hostile to Israel does not make somebody anti-Semitic.
Agreed, 100%.
So I just want to see what's in his heart. The fact that Jerry Nadler endorsed him, people say, well, he's afraid of the left. Well, let's see. Let's just be open-minded because again, I think he's going to win. And he's doing some things. Take away everything you don't like about the guy, not just about Israel and Jews. Take away everything you don't like about it. You don't like free buses. You don't like whatever. He is highlighting something that every person in this country should be concerned about, which is affordability and income inequality.
100%.
And he's doing it in a way like Bobby Kennedy and Maha. He's doing it in a way that is, if not unique, is pretty distinctive. So I took a fair amount of heat for that monologue. And most of it is people saying I said things I didn't say. All I'm saying is let's hear him out. Let's just not assume the absolute worst because I hear a lot of things about him that I know on the face of it aren't true. So that makes me a little suspicious of this suspicion. All right, we're at time. Haley, thank you. Grateful to you always for coming on, a valuable part of our community, as you know. Aaron, tell people one more time where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, go on the Parnes perspective. It's just aaronparnas.substack.com. I'm going to throw it in the chat as well. Check me out there and just really appreciate being on here. It's a great time.
All right. Love having Aaron on. And right now, we're going to end right on time because right now on two-way, my colleague, Michael Moynihan, one of the most talented people I've ever met, is having a show. It's airing at 7 o'clock for the first time. It's already been taped. So you can't ask any questions, but you can see Michael talk to Jonathan Gold, who's written a book about the classic legendary band, the Talking Heads. So turn right over to the Moynihan Report on YouTube and watch Michael's program. And I will see you in 23 hours here. And I will see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning with Sean and Dan, closing out the week, the morning meeting, and available now on YouTube and where your finer podcasts are available is my episode of Next Up with some great conversation, including my reported monologue on how Donald Trump makes decisions. As Aaron would say, you won't want to miss it. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.